All right. Okay. All right, so thank you all for joining today. Like I said, we'll go ahead and get started. If other people join, we'll get them in here. Pretty simple agenda for today, and we're going to try and keep it to around 45 minutes, leaving some room for questions at the end. Again, feel free to use the Q&A portion of the presentation. We'll be monitoring that, and we'll make sure we get your questions answered. And if we end a little bit early, we'll give you some time back in your day. So I'm going to start this out. We're going to go through and really kind of dive in first and foremost to what AI is, right? So just kind of give everybody a good baseline foundation of it. We're going to do a little quiz as well to see how good you are at spotting if it's AI or if it's human. And then I'm going to turn it over to Mike. Mike has been diving into AI for us for quite some time, definitely a passion of his. And he is going to talk about sharing data, kind of the do's and the don'ts, the good, the bad, the ugly. Talk about some horror stories that's been out there in the news of people that have shared data incorrectly. And then also to talk through what security you should have in place, what policies we recommend that you have in place. And then I'm going to finish us off with really some good practical ways that all of us can actually start using AI today, if you wanted to. So that's going to be our agenda. Then we'll open it up at the end. Again, we'll do some Q&A at the end, depending on how much time is left. So artificial intelligence is certainly here. It is not going anywhere. And really what used to be this fun, scientific or science fiction topic is now being used almost every day in really every business vertical. But before we dive into AI, again, I wanted you to really have a good understanding of what it is, some of the history of it. And when you think about artificial intelligence, typically these futuristic images come to mind, a lot of them likely from Hollywood, hence the image on the screen. But in its core, AI is actually very basic. It is truly just the science of making machines think and do things like a human, right? What were considered smart things, what typically needs a human intelligence or interaction to accomplish. This is the concept around artificial intelligence. It was actually, it first came about in 1950, this is how long it's been around, by a British man named Alan Turing, that is Alan. And then in 1956, a computer scientist named John McCarthy actually coined the phrase artificial intelligence. If there ever was a mad scientist picture, I feel like that's the one. So he is the one that actually stated artificial intelligence for the first time. So from that point, from back in the 1950s, it has really just been this roller coaster of success and setbacks, but it has brought us to where we are today. So with AI being, really a part of our everyday lives, and I'm going to give you some examples of that here pretty soon. But once AI got its footing, it developed into a subset called machine learning. So machine learning is really the science of allowing computers to learn and make decisions really based on data and based on patterns. Before machine learning, programmers had to write out instructions for every possible outcome, right? And if a variable was missing, that program would just simply stop. What machine learning did was it allowed developers to really give some of these basic suggestions on how certain things should be done and then leave room for possibilities, right? The machine can then take the patterns and the data and everything it's ingested and make a decision. However, human intervention was still required because some of those decisions were either incorrect or undesirable. One of the best examples of machine learning is when they start going into driverless cars, right? So they don't have to program in every possible scenario that you're going to encounter with a car, right? That's almost impossible. But what they had to do was provide the computer enough information to understand what a pedestrian is, what is something that you would avoid, right? And they gave it millions of pictures, and then it was able to correlate and decide what should be avoided and what shouldn't be avoided. Still, however, right, with maybe some human intervention in there. So that's a good example of machine learning. Then we moved in to what's called deep learning. Deep learning is really the most advanced and sophisticated AI technology that we have today, right? This is what we're seeing today. It actually mimics, as scary as it is, the workings of our brains. So data is processed through multiple layers, and eventually it has enough trained data and pathways, or enough data in there that it's actually creating its own pathways and networks, similar to how our brain works. And it can actually outperform humans in some intellectual tasks, right? You've got speech recognition, playing chess, all those things that no longer require human interaction. That is what you consider deep learning, right? So here is just one of many, just to kind of show you the nesting of it, right? Of what this looks like, where we started with artificial intelligence, we've moved into machine learning, lots of algorithms, lots of patterns, and now we're into this section of deep learning, right? Which is, and it really has exploded over the last few years. So I mentioned driverless cars, speech recognition, but how do we see this in everyday lives? So some of these you might know, some of them might be new, or you might not have thought that it's actually artificial intelligence or AI in the background. So some of the big ones, you've got Amazon, how it recommends certain products for you, right? It's ingesting all this information, who you are, what your buying pattern is, where you live, and it's giving you suggestions. Netflix is the same. I recommend, right? It's all AI behind the scenes. These two, no surprise there. Facebook, Instagram, they are listening, right? And they're giving you like, how do I get ads that are strangely tied to exactly what I'm thinking, what we're talking about, what I'm interested in, what are your interests, right? It's all algorithms, it's all AI behind the scenes. How about travel and navigation apps? So how does Waze know, for one example, what direction to send you, what path is going to be your fastest? It is just ingesting all of this data from everybody, and it is using artificial intelligence to then spit out the best pathway forward. You've got a lot of things around security, how your phone opens up with your face, that's AI. Banking, why are we so good now at being able to see if something is credit card fraud? It's all AI. They're looking for patterns, they're recognizing what you're doing, how you're spending, and they're pretty fast at recognizing fraud. It's all AI behind the scenes. And then last but not least, do I have any Spotify users? Because I am certainly a Spotify user. They have this new thing out there called your AI DJ. If you haven't used it yet, you should. It really is a DJ specifically designed for you. It pulls your history, what you like. It gives you suggestions based on maybe new genres or new artists that meet what you like. If you use Spotify and you haven't used this yet, just search DJ in the upper left corner of it and you'll be able to find it. So just some really good everyday examples of how we see AI and how we're actually interacting with AI even without really knowing it. So now let's test some of your skills. So we're going to try a poll. If this works right, there should be something that pops up on your screen. Full disclaimer, this is incredibly hard for these. So can you spot what is human and what is AI? One of these pictures is not a real person. It is fully generated by AI. The other one is a real human. What do you think? If you see the poll, go ahead and select option 1 or option 2. Okay. Option 2 is the winner. However, whoops, if I get my mouse right. The first one is actually generated by AI, where number 2 is actually the real human. I'm sure she has some kind of a filter on there. Her skin is way too pretty, but that is actually a true human. All right, next one, 1 or 2, also incredibly hard. You're right on this one. So, oh, we still got some more. Now I gave it away. If you can see the response, I guess. So number 1 is the real human. Number 2 is generated by AI. Again, almost impossible to tell. All right, last one. I'm not going to have you read all of this. Obviously, you can kind of skim it. This one might be a little bit easier if you actually kind of set and analyze the words that it uses. But the first one, number 1, is around SpaceX and the launch and not coming because of COVID. The second one is around Facebook and disinformation. All right, you guys are pretty right on that one. and number 2 is written by AI. So again, almost nearly impossible, to be honest. However, this next slide, there is a company, excuse me, AI21 Studio, that actually did one of the largest tests just this year. They finished up in April, and they used it was interactive, right? They used a chat, and basically the goal was for the person chatting to be able to see if they could determine whether or not they were chatting with a human or with a bot or something with AI. So this kind of restores my faith a little bit in humans, that we did a pretty good job. So they analyzed the first 2 million conversations, and what they found was 73% of the time they were able to tell if it was a human. Great. 60% of the time they were able to guess right that it was a bot. So they used some strategies in this that I thought was kind of interesting. One, grammar mistakes, slang. For the most part, bots and AI is programmed to be grammatically correct. The next one was personal questions. So something that, might not come from a computer. Where are you from? What's the weather like? Things like that. They challenged the conversation through philosophical or ethical questions. They also flagged AI, actually, if it was too polite or too kind. Kind of makes sense. That's probably a computer, maybe not a human these days. But the last one, which actually kind of makes me laugh, is they asked it for guidance on illegal activities or for it to use offensive language. Most bots are going to be programmed to adhere to ethical guidelines and to avoid that type of behavior. So that was another kind of strategy that they used to kind of determine, am I talking to a real person or am I talking to a bot? So anyways, just an interesting poll, or an interesting thing that they did. And I thought it was worth noting, especially because when you look at pictures or stagnant data, it's also very hard to determine what is AI and what is human. A little scary as well. But this kind of wraps up that first portion that I'm going to talk about with AI. Hopefully you have at least kind of a good baseline understanding of when we say artificial intelligence, what are we actually talking about? And so I'm going to pass it over to Mike next. Mike is going to dive into really the do's and don'ts of data sharing, right? We know it's out there. We know you can put your data in AI algorithms. You can use data in AI, but what should you be doing? What shouldn't you be doing? And then he's also going to work into the security and the policies side of it.
Awesome. Thank you, JC. Honestly, very excited to do this webinar. I've always had a extreme passion for automation. When ChatGPT came out a year ago, it really it imploded the AI environment, making it a lot easier for everyday users to interact with it. Because of that, it also created a lot more risks, a lot more uncertainties, and that's what I get to have the pleasure of going over with you guys today. So talking about data, there's the good, the bad, and the ugly side of sharing data. Why would we want to share data with AI bots? First one is it improves efficiency. The idea behind that is that just like computers made our lives easier when they first came out, it also allows you to do things a lot quicker. Jason, can you hit the next? So being able to identify information, make things happen quicker, takes a lot of the boring tasks out of your job, allowing the AI bot to be able to do it. Next is going to be personalization, being able to customize responses, systems, reports, insights, things like that directly to your business and to the information, rather than having generic, feedback based off of it. And then finally, the data insights. Just like it's easy to overlook data points or information as an individual, having an AI bot behind it just gives that additional set of eyes, but tenfold, if not more. Being able to see things that you wouldn't normally be able to see, patterns, correlations, things like that. Next is going to be talking about the bad side of sharing data with AI bots. Going over the bad side, it's things that we need to be aware of, not so much things we need to be fearful of. If you're aware of it, you can overcome it and be protected. First is going to be data leaks, whether it's intentional or unintentional. Behind it, systems will have data leaks, and that is always a concern. Next is going to be the bias propaganda. AI bots, just like children, as you're teaching them about the environment, the systems, your organization, it can then create a bias opinion on it. and that can be unintentional or intentional. And then lastly is going to be the little human oversight. It gets very easy to set it and forget it of, oh, I can just have that, answer the questions, respond to it, and send it off. And in a lot of cases, people stop doing the verification, stop checking, stop reviewing, and they just allow it to do it for them. And that's the piece that has to be mitigated, of making sure that you are reviewing it, that it is accurate, and that it's what you want it to do. Lastly is going to be the ugly side of sharing data with AI. This is the malicious side of it, and some of the things that we've already seen and we're going to continue to see with threat actors. First is data manipulation, similar to the bias propaganda, but this one is going to be more focused, targeted, of ingesting and pushing so much wrong data into these bots and systems that it provides incorrect or tampered data. Can lead you to a malicious site or add malicious information into your environment. Financial losses is possible if you're not reviewing or verifying the information, if you're trusting it, wholeheartedly, and you'll run into those types of financial losses because of it. And then lastly is going to be your reputation. When there's a issue with the AI bot, if it provides wrong information, if it has any type of misleading data, it's going to affect your organization's reputation. The data risks that come from sharing data with it, we'll talk through, is going to be the types of data that can be leaked. Sensitive internal information. This is going to be information and data that is proprietary to your organization, stuff that you have internal, whether that's financial reports, SOPs, policies, things like that. Source code, if you have any type of proprietary code, if you're working on how to create things, that type of information can be put into the systems and then potentially leaked. Client data, who you work with, their type of information that you may be storing. PII, protected information related to employees, staff, clients, and then meeting notes. We see a lot of AI around meetings and being able to record and provide responses and notes around your meetings, and that information could potentially be leaked. Some of the scenarios that we've seen and will continue to see when data is exposed is going to be unintentional exposure. This is when an employee is going to provide information into the system that then can be, shared with others, or if that system is breached, then then having that data exposed. But it's not anything that they're maliciously trying to do, but it is going to happen because there may not be a policy around what type of data can be put into those systems. Next is going to be the malicious insider. This is going to be a more focused attack of a employee that may have been exited, that still had access to systems, or have information that they can ingest into these tools to kind of share out to everybody. And then finally is going to be targeted attacks of organizations being targeted if they know that they have some type of AI use, having threat actors go after them intentionally and attacking the systems that they're using around AI. How are we going to overcome these data exposure risks? There's a couple. These are 3 examples. There's a lot more that can be dived into, but the main ones are going to be, we see a lot of organizations just putting a blanket statement of, nope, you're not going to use it. You're not going to use AI. You're not going to use chatbots. You're not going to use these systems. There's too much of a risk. The next side of it is going to be the employee education, getting employees educated around security and what they can and can't put in there, so that they have the understanding behind it. And then finally, the browser security platform is a tool that monitors, manages, and blocks certain type of data, depending on how it's classified, from being put into those systems. One of the big examples that we've seen recently was around Samsung. There was a Samsung employee that he had a code related to one of their systems, and he wanted to improve it. So he threw that code into ChatGPT. ChatGPT is a very public-facing site. Anything that you put into it, it's learning from, and then providing that information to others. So when that happened, Samsung essentially had their source code and meeting notes exposed to the world in a way. Shortly after that, Samsung banned employees from using AI and ChatGPT tools. And then we also saw Apple shortly behind them doing the same thing. Of the fear behind it just made them say, nope, we're not going to allow it. But what we see too often is that once employees have started using tools like ChatGPT or other AI automation, it makes their jobs easier. It takes the boring out of a lot of the things that they're doing. And if that's taken away from them, you see an impact on the types of talent that you can retain or bring on. I have a feeling that we're going to start seeing that question more often in interviews of potential employees asking, do you use any type of AI automation? What are your policies around that? Because it does make your lives a lot easier once you start using it, and it's a hard shift to move away from it. Going to the security side of it, how do we set the foundation to have a strong security focus around AI? It all starts with the employees, with the people. When you build a strong culture around security, not just security around AI, but security as a whole, whether that's physical security, badging in, not letting people in behind you, around not sharing passwords, storing your passwords on a Post-it, and then AI about the data that you share with it. If you build that culture around security first, it makes the conversations, it makes the restrictions that you put in place a lot easier, because they're going to understand it. It's not just a slap on the hand of, nope, we're not going to do it. They see the benefits and the risks to the organization when you build that culture. Next is going to be around open communication, talking through with the staff of what your intentions are with AI. We recently just had our quarterly staff meeting, and one of the topics that we brought up was around AI is not here to replace you and replace your jobs. It is here to enhance your jobs and make it better. Having that put up in front relieved a lot of worry or questioning of, or are they just going to set up AI and then fire the entry-level workers or get rid of my job? There's always going to be a place for people. AI is going to replace tasks, not people. And then finally is going to be around regular training, going through webinars, the security side training, the training around the tools that you're using, making sure they understand how it works and that they're using it efficiently. When there's regular training around those systems, they're not going to be misused, they're not going to be abused in those aspects. Setting security policies. How do you make sure that you're getting what you want and that you are secured in this? The first is going to be a detailed acceptable use policy. We created a few months ago a detailed acceptable use policy related to AI. Similar to how you would have an acceptable use policy for personal devices, what they can and can't do on their own devices related to the business. AI is very set up in the same way of what tools are allowed. We list out which ones have been approved. We have details on the testing process. Verification is going to go through to ensure that it meets all of our security requirements before we implement it into our system. And then there's a regular review process of making sure it is still good. The audit side of it is going to be once the tool's in place, you're going to want to make sure you're reviewing it. Is it still the best platform? Is it still pulling in information that it should be and not getting information that it shouldn't have? The regular audits is going to be an essential part of ensuring that you don't have unintentional data leaks. And then the incident response plan. Having a plan before something bad happens makes the response a lot easier. having run-throughs of what happens if the tool that we're using today for AI has a breach. What are we going to do? Are we going to notify all of our clients that had potential data in it? How do we know how to access what information was leaked? But going through those regular practices of understanding what that's going to look like is always a great security step. And then what happens when the unintentional leaks happen, or if there's when the bad things happen? First, you're going to be testing and validation. Similar to the regular audits, is regularly testing the tool, making sure it's still doing what it needs to do, and that it's gaining access to the systems that it should have access to. Feedback loops become important. Talking to staff, clients, and vendors of what's happening. If it's a tool that's working, if it's not working, if it's having issues, but having those regular conversations, open conversations, so that people can provide feedback on how it's working. And then finally, a human oversight, making sure that you are reviewing it. It's the old mentality of set it and forget it should not apply to AI. It is a constant review, constant oversight, and it just adds a different focus. You're no longer doing a task that AI is doing, but now you're focused on reviewing the AI system itself. With that, I'm going to pass it back over to JC.
All right, thanks, Mike. Okay. Last section for us today is really what are the practical ways of using AI? So, right, we've told you about the foundation, really what it is. Hopefully Mike didn't scare you on the data side of the house. There is definitely security aspects that we should, be paying close attention to. But at the same time, like we use this in a very practical way at Anchor. There are some great use cases. And I'm going to post the link to this article, or actually it was an interview from the Harvard Business Review, but the editor-in-chief makes this statement and I loved it. He says, AI is not going to replace humans. I feel that, right? Like I don't think it's going to be some futuristic, the computers, run the world type of a deal. But humans with AI are going to replace humans without AI. And I full-heartedly believe that. So just as we start going through things, as you use AI, there are some really, really good use cases for this. It takes some of that cognitive time, power, right, off of your plate and gets you back doing things maybe that you like a little bit better or something that you're passionate about. So you can use AI to really benefit you on a regular basis. So I say that, but what is that, right? So first off, I feel like we have to recognize that AI is a part of our world and we need to embrace it, right? You need to it's not going anywhere. And it comes with some really, really good benefits. So where can you actually apply AI? I'm going to ask you really kind of 3 questions with that. So one, is there an area that you in particular, yourself, you're not very efficient in? Is there an area that either you are struggling with a process, maybe your company struggles with a process? And then the last one is there someone doing a task that you feel like is menial, right? Like it's important, we need to do it, but gosh, anybody could do it, right? Or could it be automated? So sit with those questions for a bit. That's kind of my challenge to you today. And I guarantee you're going to come away from that with some ideas or thoughts that possibly could be, tailored to be able to use that AI can help solve. So one example of that, you think of, Mike mentioned it, meeting notes. Are there risks around that? Yes, but you just need to pick the right tool, right? That is secure, that it keeps your information to you and you alone inside your business. But don't have somebody take meeting notes. Use an app, use something that can transcribe, right? They're actually very good at that. And can take one of those kind of menial tasks, right, off of somebody's plate. When you think of a process, I don't know, maybe it's HR. Maybe you're struggling with the hiring process and there's some steps in the middle that really don't need a human that you could automate, right, that you could make sure are happening. It might not be something that you're programming, right? We're not going down that path, but there's probably a program out there that you can utilize, right? That maybe might be able to fix that process. So think through those questions. It could be anything. Use Anchor. We're here to help bounce ideas off of. We might know of a tool, of a product, of an app that could be using AI behind the scenes that can really help you, solve one of these issues. Next one is as a leader, right? Most of you on this call, you're either a leader, a director, some sort of higher end, process that you're doing and job that you're working on. So as a leader, what should you be doing? Really, my first thing is to just adopt a learning mindset, right? You don't have to be a computer whiz to dive into AI. You don't have to be a programmer to figure out things that it could actually help you with. So I encourage you to start learning, start experimenting, and practicing with really what helps you the most. So I'll be kind of the first to go. So here's how I use personally AI. My primary one is a content generator. Could I sit and type up this email? Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe I'm struggling with how to articulate what I'm trying to say in an email. Maybe my creative juices aren't flowing and I just need an idea and I can't figure out how to start something. And once it's started, right, then I can roll with it, right? If that resonates with anybody else on this call, this is how I use it. I primarily use ChatGPT right now, but Mike's going to talk about some of the exciting things that we are going to start doing and seeing through Microsoft that's going to be coming down next. But there's a lot of things that you could utilize. A research associate. Are you traveling and you have a free afternoon somewhere and you're not sure what to do? You can give it different parameters and let it spit out for you some interesting things to do. Do you want to have a family vacation? Use it as a research associate. How about a thought partner, copy editor, right? We've already kind of talked a little bit about the idea generator. It's great at that. The other use case that I was talking with someone about was their partner was really struggling with articulating authority as they go through, as they type emails. So they actually use this to kind of help tweak their emails to have it have a little bit more authority in it and less passiveness. So one idea, maybe you're the opposite. Maybe your emails are too authoritative and you need to be a little friendlier. You can tell it to do different things depending on what you need, right? You can type up an email, you can put it in ChatGPT and say, hey, can you make this a little friendlier? Hey, can you make this more assertive? And take the ideas that it gives you. You don't have to do it word for word, but I guarantee you're going to get some really good word language changes in there that can help you. It also frees up your time, right? You're not having to sit there and brainstorm. You're not having to sit there and actually manually type everything. You can get your idea started. It frees up some cognitive thinking for you and get you moving along new lines. So I said earlier, as always, Anchor's here. We're here to help. If you think of something that you're answering those 3 questions with that you want to run past us, please do. Mike and I would love to have that conversation with you. We can help vet any application. We can help show you if it's good, if it's not, if what the risks are around that. And we can also help you with some of those policies and security updates. So last but not least, we wanted to talk just briefly, I'm going to pass it back to Mike, of what is Anchor actually doing with AI and what is coming. So we've had some of these questions before. You've got Microsoft Copilot, you've got some really cool stuff coming. And what is Anchor's plan for us internally?
Yeah, honestly, it was something that was really exciting to talk as a leadership team. One of the topics we had in one of our meetings was, what is Anchor going to do with AI? And for a lot of us, it wasn't something we were, actively thinking about. We were using it in small cases, but around how we're going to build the company, where our focuses need to be, and what would be best for us. Where we're at right now is because Anchor is we're a company built in the cloud. All of our environment is in Microsoft. Microsoft Copilot made a lot of sense for us. And as you can see from the diagrams here, is Microsoft Copilot is going to inject into a lot of their existing tools and have different areas. There's going to be a Windows 11 Copilot, which is focused on, if you remember Clippy from years ago, when you were inside of documents, it would give you little hints and tricks on how to do stuff within Windows. Then there's going to be the Microsoft 365 Copilot, which takes all the stuff from your cloud, emails, data stored in there through OneDrive and SharePoint, Teams messages, those types of that type of information, be able to respond based off of that. You have your Bing search, similar to ChatGPT, but using Bing and Microsoft The big thing again with Microsoft is that if you have a lot of data within there, or you connect other data sources into Microsoft, it collaborates and provides pulls in all that information. So that's where we're going to be really focused. The other big focus that we'll have on is there's a security co-pilot that Microsoft's rolling out, which will help identify security risks and mitigate those automatically. So those are the ones that we're focused on with Microsoft. We're also one of our big focuses is around content creation for our staff. So training videos, employee onboarding documents, things like that. AI video creation is one of the really cool ones that has come out recently, where you can upload a script and it will create a video for you. So you don't have to go through the process of recording anything like doing the recordings, having the scripts, editing. You essentially can give it a SOP and it'll create a video version of that SOP, making it easy for your staff to follow, understand, and go that aspect. So again, just freeing up, making things faster, more efficient, and a better experience for your staff. So those are some of the big ones that we're excited for here at Anchor, and that we're continuing to learn and grow through.
And Mike, one question that I'm guessing we might get on this is, if you're using Windows and you're using Copilot, is that public? Is that private? Are we secure when we use that?
So the answer is it depends. It depends on the plan that you have with Microsoft and what type of integration. So like Bing Chat, which has Chat GPT like functions within it, there's two versions. There's a Bing Chat, and then there's a Bing Chat for Enterprise. The for Enterprise is going to ingest data that you have in Microsoft and provide feedback based off of that information. And anything that you ask it around your data is going to reside within your own tenant and not shared out to anyone else. The language model doesn't learn from it. But then you have the free versions, the trial versions, and that's where vetting these vendors becomes so important, and asking how your data is being used. Because when it's free, it's not free. What you're paying is your data. That's the cost to use those tools is it's gathering from all your data.
Perfect. I love that. When it's free, it's really not. They're getting paid in some aspect, right? They're getting paid by your data. All right, so what's some of our key takeaways? I just broke this down into 4. 1, start talking to your employees about AI. They're using it. They are. I guarantee you. So make sure that they're safely using it and that you know what kind of data they're putting in there. The next one is to build a policy around acceptable use. So we are happy to share what we have. Everybody on here is a client of ours, so we're happy to share that. We can also provide some type of a template to make sure that you have all the good key points in there. The next one is simply embrace it, right? It's here to stay. It can be a huge help to you and your company. And then research some of these up and coming new Microsoft AI tools and see what might be a good fit for you. Again, we're going to be diving in. We're going to be using a lot of it inside Anchor. So we're kind of going to go first in that, but take a look at it. If there's something that really is interesting to you, don't be afraid of it, right? Let us help you vet it. Let us help you make sure you're making the right decision from a security aspect, but go for it, right? Embrace it. And then last, find a way to start using it today. So yes, we talked about ChatGPT and some of that data being out there. When I use it, when Mike uses that, right, I'm just aware of what I'm putting in there, right? I'm putting in generic things. I'm taking out anything that's proprietary to us. No client data goes in there, right? It's just idea generating, content generating that's more general in nature, but start using it. There's no reason why you can't. That's a great first step. And again, just sit with some of those questions that I asked earlier and see if there's ways that AI can actually start working to your benefit. And with that, we are done. I put the quote up there because I love it. I'm also going to add that in chat. I will add that here in a minute, the link to that. But what questions do you have? The Q&A is open. If you guys have questions, we're happy to answer. You're also welcome to email Mike or I later. And if there are no questions, we'll give everybody a little bit.
Yeah, Brian, you asked what the name of the video creation tool. I'm looking at a couple right now. Again, it's not just about what it does for you, but it's how it impacts your data. And that's one of the things that I'm finding with a lot of vendors is that that's not as transparent until you go into the demos with it. One of the tools I'm looking at is Hour One. It's our HOUR 1.ai. And again, just trying to figure out what are they doing with our data? If it's SOPs and we're doing specialized training, how does that data get shared? And those are conversations that I'm still currently having. So that's one tool out there, but I wouldn't say it's 100% vetted by us at this point.
I'll keep you posted. Victoria asked, do we need to request the AI policy? Yes, and Victoria, if you'd like it, I'm happy to send that over to you. So I'll put you down on the list. Sarah, any thoughts on Zoom's new AI companion? It creates a generated AI summary of the meeting controlled by the host.
This has been a topic that has come up in the Security Council that I'm part of, is Zoom's, there's a couple of tiers to it from what I understand. And depending on which tier you fall under is dependent on where your data resides and how it's used. So that's the one concern I would have with it. It's a great tool. It makes life a lot easier. But I believe their free version, it learns from some of the information that goes in there.
Can you test out the Microsoft Copilot tools with a couple of staff members?
No. Yes and no. There's no trial. You do have to purchase the licensing for it. You don't have to purchase licensing for the entire staff. Licensing is assigned per person. And then those can be tested in that aspect. You would pay for however long you want to use it. With Microsoft licensing policy they have now is it's a 30-day license. So you could do it for 30 days, 60 days, and then cancel it if it's not something you want to continue using.
And Mike, that is actually not coming out until November at some point, correct?
No, November 1st is when it gets released to the general public.
Tony says the vetting of AI platforms included in service agreement, or is there project fee for that? We'll vet it for you. Now, if it goes, really deep into it and we think it's going to take a ton of hours, we might have a different conversation around it. But for the most part, we're vetting a lot of them ourselves. If you find one that's interesting to you, it's going to benefit us. It's going to benefit the rest of our client base. So send it over. Let us take a look at it. We're happy to vet that for you under just typical contracts.
Pull us into those conversations with when you're doing the demos, just like any other product vendor that you would work with. Is we're happy to sit on your guys' side of the table of listening to it and then pushing those types of questions of where does the data reside, how does it share it, how does it learn from it.
Vic, do you know what the cost of the Copilot license is, Mike?
Yeah, Copilot's going to be $30 a user for the Microsoft 365 Copilot license. The Windows Copilot is going to be built into the next release, and it's included. But again, there's different levels of Copilot.
I think probably the next step on the Copilot piece for those that are interested is really just kind of getting some understanding or doing some research around the different types of it. And again, we can help you with that because based on what you want it to do is really going to drive which direction, right? Do you want Windows? Do you want Office 365? Like that Copilot, like what are you looking for? And in true Microsoft fashion, right? They name everything the same name and make it completely confusing. So we can help you kind of navigate those waters. Okay, any other questions? I am going to back the slide up for 1 second and find the link that I want to share with you guys. Here it is. Oh, it's not letting me grab it. So the link that I'm giving is that Harvard Business Review link. It was really good. And an easy read or a listen. It's actually a little bit of a, it's actually an interview back and forth. So that was a great one. Kind of helps give some thought process on that. I see Julie typing. If there's any other questions, go ahead and throw them in. Thanks, Julie. We appreciate it. Yeah, hopefully this is beneficial to you guys. We might do it again depending on, there's a few people that wanted to attend. We also recorded it, so we'll be able to provide that to you as well. So, and again, if you do want the policy, I did flag those that asked for it. Happy to do that. Also, talk with your CSM, talk with Corey, talk with Brian. They know what the content was on here and what we're talking about today. So they can also help answer questions and provide you with any information, look over policies, things like that. Okay. All right. Well, hey, we're going to give you guys a little bit of time back in your day. Highly appreciate you taking some time to spend with us on this. Hopefully it's beneficial, and we'll talk with you all soon. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.